What up, everybody? What day is it? Hump day. Welcome, everybody. You've made it halfway through the week. You're at the top. You're at the pinnacle, that roller coaster analogy, and now you're on the way down. Hopefully, there's been very few bumps on your way to this journey this week. But we know that in the mornings, you get to enjoy coffee hour with me, and I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to join me every day, Monday through Friday, here at Coffee Hour. Get your week started. We could talk the water cooler talk, whatever you want to talk about. Basically, we don't know what direction the show will go. This week, we are back to basics. We're talking commercial basics, just things to remember under commercial. Next week, we'll get into a little deeper topics, but we're just, again, talking the basics this week. And also, next week, we will do some more exam prep on a couple days where we'll hit some questions again and kind of get you back into that understanding how to dissect a question, look it up, and all that kind of stuff. So again, we're not totally deviating away from our normal thing, but again, we're just kind of doing some lessons. And last week we did back to basics for residential. This week we're doing back to basics for some commercial things, just basic stuff that you need to remember, that you lock away in your brain and you don't have to think about it again, that type of stuff. So again, welcome. Now, as always, I live vicariously through you, the viewer, so please do me a favor. Whether you go to paulabernathy.com and submit questions, I give you responses, and sometimes they'll even be in podcasts. We are behind on podcasts. I will be doing some episodes. Look for a dump of about 3 or 4 episodes this week. So if you listen to our podcast, you will see a dump of that, so be aware of that to get caught up. But other than that, again, go to paulabernathy.com if you want to submit a very detailed question. But if you want to let me know who you are, where you're from, whether you're a Fast Tracks member, whether you're just joining, whether you have want information on the program, you have questions about exam prep or about the NEC or about anything to do with the electrical industry, do me a favor, in the comments, you can do that. But give me your name, where you're from. We'd love to hear from you. Whether you're a regular that comes every day or you're a newbie, first time you've ever joined us, let us know in the comments. Again, it's appreciated. If you like what you see, do me a favor, give a like, give a share, let other people know about it. We appreciate it. It seems to help the rhythm. Throw an emoji down there. That's okay too. Whatever you want to do. Hell, throw a poop emoji. If you think it's poop, go for it. Whatever you feel. But again, it shows that you're actually engaged and in the program. So thanks for joining us. Now, before I get started, and I don't want to take this political. I'm not going to take it political, and I get it. Some people don't like when I talk politics, and I'm not going to talk the mean, evil orange man that people say. I'm just going to talk real quick about tariff. And there seems to be an amazing misunderstanding of tariffs. And I'll use my mini excavator as an example real quick before we get into something. Again, I'm not going to get political. I just want to talk about tariffs because there seems to be so many people online that are posting things like, well, these tariffs mean I'm going to pay more for my Chinese imports, right? Yes, you are. In fact, as of today, I think you're going to pay upwards of, there was a 10% tariff on imports, and I think you're going to pay an additional 34%. So 44% of tariffs on imports from China. Okay. I have a Chinese excavator. I purchased mine before the increase in tariffs. So all full disclaimer, and it hasn't arrived yet. So my seller could say, oops, I don't want to sell it to you now. You're going to have to pay 44% more to cover the tariffs. Well, he's an eBay seller. So if that happens, I will rip him apart and destroy his rating on eBay. But that's the reason it spawned me to talk a little bit about tariffs. If I was purchasing it now and I knew the tariffs were in place, then I would do that with that full knowledge of that because it's a short-term bump for a long-term gain. When we sell products in China and other countries, they hit us with tariffs. And so when we do something like a reciprocal tariff, all we're doing is saying, look, if you won't let me sell goods in your country for fair price, then I'm not going to let you sell goods in our country for fair price. We're going to make this thing, it's kind of like the NAFTA deal, which got trashed because it was an unfair trade deal. That's all that's happening. So has the recent tariffs and the stock markets affected my 401k? Absolutely it has. Has it affected yours if you've got one? Absolutely it has. Am I willing to accept that? Absolutely I am. Why? Because in the long-term gain, it's going to force everybody to come to the table and we're going to get a fair deal so that when we sell our goods in China, which helps grow our country, when we sell our goods in China and other countries, they're not going to tax or tariff us, which is basically a tax, any more than we would. So it's unfair right now. It's unfair. And it took an administration to come in and say, you know what? We're going to force everybody to make things fair. Does that mean in the short term I got to pay more for things that I want from other countries? Absolutely it does. But it's a long-term gain. And when I hear people cry about it, it drives me absolutely crazy. Why? Because they don't understand that they want their short-term wins and don't care about the long-term gain. Yet you want me to worry about climate change, which is a long-term game that nobody else is willing to play in the same bucket. Okay, India and other countries don't want to clean the air. They don't want to clean the environment. You know what I'm saying? So why should I be a part of something that nobody else wants to contribute to? So to hate somebody or hate an administration simply because they're trying to make things better for America, whether you like a guy or person or his policies or not, tariffs, if done right, are the right move because it's unfair around the world. U.S. is dramatically over tariffed when our goods and products are sold in other countries. Also, tariffs encourage products to be made in the U.S. Now, could I buy a mini excavator in the U.S.? Yeah, for 30 or 40 grand for the same thing I can buy from China. That's why we buy it from China. Okay? Buy American. Whatever, dude. I'm just saying, tariffs level the playing field. It's a short-term issue for a long-term gain. Are we going to strike a deal? Absolutely. Are the tariffs going to drop? Absolutely. We all know they will. Not right now. Not why it's on the table. So I just wanted to make that clear for all the people out there that really don't understand the goal here behind tariffs. And it affects you and me as an electrician, as a contractor, in goods and import. A lot of stuff's made overseas and that type of thing. It's called leveling the playing field. That's all it's called. And people say it's reciprocal tariffs. Again, it's what you're going to charge me. I'm going to charge you the exact same thing until we come to an agreement. All right. So am I okay with paying more on imports? Yes. If it's a short-term bump for a long-term gain, I am perfectly okay with paying more, or I just won't buy it. If my importer comes back and says, Paul, we're not going to ship your mini excavator because now we're losing money because of the tariff, I'd be like, keep your damn mini excavator. It's fine. Just give me my money back and I'll wait it out because it's going to be fine, right? It's all works out, but people are freaking out all over the place, doing videos on it. And I'm just saying, dude, they don't understand what's being done and why it's being done. Hell, even Elon doesn't get it because Elon believes there should be zero tariffs for trade across borders. Okay. That's where we want to be, but that's not where it is right now because we're tariffed to hell in China. We're tariffed to hell in other countries on our products that we want to make here and sell there. Why wouldn't we want to sell them in other countries? Why? As a business person, I love it, right? If they use the National Electrical Code in China, shit, I'd be like, buy my product, right? So again, you have to understand why the tariffs. Just be patient. It all works out for the best. All right, enough of that, but I felt that I did get an email about that asking me my thoughts on that. So that is why I brought it to you, whether you're sitting there going, what the hell's that got to do with electrical? Well, it's my channel. I can talk about whatever I want. And that's why it's morning coffee. That's why we're talking coffee hour. But that's my take on it. And that's what I believe is happening. That's why we have to be patient. I'm just saying, it's going to be better in the end for everybody. All right. Let's do some shout outs this morning. Say hello to some people in the house. Let's go. Cray Cray's in the house. Good morning from Nashville. Glad to have you here, Cray Cray. What's up? Paul from Houston. Love it. Glad to have you here. Paul setting the tone today because we are in a new quarter, so we are doing #win. Thank you, Paul. What's up? Greg is in the house from Ohio. Thanks for joining us, Greg. Dan is in the house. Dan, thanks for joining us, Dan. Good morning, Jonathan. Glad to have you here. Tennessee. Tennessee is in the house. Tino's in here. Welcome, Tino. Thanks for joining us. Adam is in the house. The Code Nerd supporter is in the house. Thank you, sir. Glad to have you here. Jamal. Jamal is in the house from Charleston, South Carolina. Thank you, Joel. Thank you, Jamal from Charleston. Rob's hitting the tone. #win. Don't forget to feed the hog. Hog is the sponsor of today's show, so appreciate it. Adrian, good morning. Glad to have you here. And for those that are new, you heard me stomp about the tariff thing. That's not my normal intro, okay? I just got enough emails about it since it goes into effect today that I was like, I might as well give my take on that, like it or not. There it is. New play. Yeah, does it suck in the short term for many people? Yeah, it does. Yeah, it is what it is, but it's all for a good reason. Hump Day. That's right up. I don't know. I have no dance. I have no dance for Hump Day. I don't dance. I don't break dance no more. Charlie, what's up? Okay. Wow. 2 months old. Dude, time just flies. I remember, have we been doing coffee hour? Okay. Congratulations. Christopher, good morning. Uncle. Marlon, welcome. Thanks for having you here. Appreciate it. Marlon's from Tampa, Florida. Thank you. Joining me. Manny's in the house. Manny over on Facebook. Good morning. #waffle. It's #wire waffle. Wire waffle. Okay. What's up? Alex is in the house. Thanks for joining us, Alex. Miles is in the house. Thanks for joining us, Miles. #win. Getting in. Greg. Greg's been Fast Track's member of 2 years now. There you go. Hopefully you used it and got your license, Greg. Hopefully you did. Good morning, Red Dogs from California. In the grind. Red Dog. Fast Track student. Erie, Fast Track student. #win. Over on Fast Track's Tube. David's in the house. David is our resident CMECP. Got 2 new people getting ready to come out and graduate the CMECP. Hopefully they're going to be sending their essays very soon, David. Hopefully. What's up, Peter? Welcome. Glad to have you here. Rob, good morning. Glad to have you here. Kendra's in the house. Good morning. Glad to have you here. A lot of #wins thrown out everywhere. What's up, Fina Tech? Glad to have you here. Good morning. Edgar's in the house. Good morning, Edgar. He said, Erie says, I bet my Nintendo Switch will cost more. Now, everything that's imported from China will cost more. But, people say, well, that make me buy more American. Well, I love that argument. And yes, it means we buy American, but there's some things we just can't buy in America. Okay. We just don't do it right. Right. I mean, let's be honest. All the bells and whistles that I'm going to get on my mini excavator with pilot control and all this stuff, if I bought that in the US, it would cost me 30, 40 grand for the same thing. Right? It's made of the same a Kubota engine. That's Japanese. But at the end of the day, we buy it because it's cheaper. That has nothing. People say, then you should hate the tariffs. No, because I understand. It sucks that I have to pay more for taxes. I get it. But trust me, I pay a lot of taxes anyway. So I hate taxes anyway. But at the end of the day, I understand why we're doing the tariffs, and that's a different. If you can separate the cost from why we're doing it, then I'm okay with it. And I just will not buy products that I have to pay the tariff on. Once it goes down, because it will go back down, trust me, it will go. This is just a bargaining tool that the administration's using. I get it. It's the art of the deal. I understand it. You already have countries coming to the table. It's a big deal. Tariffs are a big deal. To take a 44% increase on something, it's going to impact whether you buy it or not. These countries know this, and they're going to come to the table. Trust me. It's just a short-term bump for a long-term win-win situation for all countries. I have no problem paying a tariff. Okay, it helps the economies of the country where they do it. It's just you got to be fair about it, and it's not fair what we're charged in other countries. So it had to be, there was a time, and it took somebody with some cojones to actually do it. So are we going to have a short-term bump in the road where we get all worried and all that kind of, yeah, we are, but it's all good. It'll all work out. What's up, D Fitness? Good morning. Glad to have you here. Joseph's in the house. Good morning. Oh, and by the way, anybody that me saying this about the tariffs is pissed off and they're like, I'm not following you, then you're very shallow. Just giving you my opinion. It has nothing to do with whether you learn code from me or not. I tell this to people all the time. I don't care whether somebody's black, white, green, yellow, blue, Republican, Democrat, liberal, conservative, whatever. I don't give a damn. I teach code, but I do not let people dictate what I preach on my channels and what I do. So if you don't like it, flip it to another channel. There's always other educators you can watch. Let that stuff be an opinion. You can have yours. I can have mine. But that doesn't mean we can't break bread together. That doesn't mean we can't learn together. Okay? That type of thing. What's up, Val? Good morning. Glad to have you here. David, good morning. Glad to have you here. Marcus from Arkansas, good morning. Glad to have you here. Wow, there's a lot of folks in here today. Let's see here. Good morning, gents. All right, good morning. Glad to have you in here. Let's see here. I'm getting close to the end here. Good morning from San Antonio, Robert. David, good morning from Missouri. All right, we're caught up. Okay. Again, let me know who you are, where you're from, and whatever you want to talk about. If you want to give a comment, give a comment. You want to give a comment on the tariffs? Give a comment on the tariffs. We'll share it. This is Coffee Hour. This isn't part of your Fast Tracks program. This isn't part of exam prep. This is something I do every morning to have coffee, get started, have a discussion with you. You're free to put comments in there and share your thoughts. You can agree to disagree with me. It's okay. I tell people all the time, as long as you're not nasty, you can disagree. I get it. It's okay. I'm not going to ban you because of something like that. Just don't get nasty. We're here to have a conversation. That's all. And we will learn some code in the process, so you can ask me questions, that type of thing. All right. All right. So let's get into today's lesson real quick. We're back into the basics and it's commercial. So we are touching the basics. So keep that in mind. We will deep dive into certain code topics, but we are doing basics this week. So this is the basics as it applies to commercial. Okay. All right. So now let's get to the basics of circuits and understanding circuits, okay? So what we learned in the previous episodes this week, and we started this on the 7th of April, which is Monday, and the 8th was Tuesday, which is part 2 of this series, and then today's Wednesday, hump day. This is the 9th of April. So this is part 3. And if you want to get the residential basics, that's the last week. Okay, go check that out. It's in YouTube, and it will also slowly be migrated over to Fast Track's Tube, and it'll be dated, and it'll be a little easier to find things on the Tube than it is over on YouTube and other channels. Trust me, Jeff's working on that. He's back working on the Hog today, but he will be back on trying to get things organized in Fast Track's Tube. Okay. All right, so we learned earlier that in 220.14i, oh, and by the way, we're on the 2023 edition of the NEC. So again, some things may be a little different, whether you're in the 2020 or the 2017. They might be a little, but the principles are going to be the same. But the code reference may be slightly different. This is why I tell folks, if you're studying for an electrical exam, make sure you choose the right course for the exam that you'll be testing on. And if you're in that situation where you don't know if they're going to change to another cycle, then I would reach out to your test center and try to do your best to find a date of transition, because I can't help you with that. If you buy a 2020 and then they go to 2023, I can't help you with that. Okay, so do your own due diligence. What's up, Nick? Thanks for joining us. All right, so it's 180 VA per strap, right? So if I have a duplex like this right here, that's 180 VA, right? Nick got the database of questions. There you go, Nick. In those data, real quick for Nick, because he just got them and he may be new to how we do it. Usually when we watch some of my old videos that talk about exam prep, and it shows you how you dissect a question. So don't go through your questions like you're in a test, like you're going to use a timer and try to answer them in 2 hours. No, time each question individually when you get to that point. Right now, when you're studying questions, it's okay if you take 10 minutes on a question. Just make sure that you take the question and you dissect the hell out of it. In other words, look up every important trigger word in the index. Go to the index, look it up, see if there's something in the index that would have gotten you to the answer. That's called dissection. So don't be in a hurry to just do the questions like you would be on an exam. Depending on your time frame, you only need to time yourself. Set a 2-minute timer on your phone. You only need to do that during the last 2 weeks before you take your test. So up to that point, take your time on each question and dissect it. Really dissect every piece of the question, okay? That's important for you to dissect it out. You don't have to answer it in 2 minutes. If it takes you 10 minutes to dissect a question, in this phase of learning, it is okay. It's okay to do that, okay? I just want to make that clear for folks, because again, that's what I talk about when I do the exam prep series, things like that. So what's up, Samantha? Thanks for joining us. All right, so there you go, 180 VA per strap. That's covered in 220.14i. Now, therefore, when the source is 120 volts, and again, we're talking about how to determine the number of receptacles on a branch circuit. All right, so this is basics. And again, this is kind of one of those things that when we do residential, there's nothing that tells us in residential how many receptacles can be on a 20 amp branch circuit or a 15 amp branch circuit. I mean, there's nothing in residential that tells us that. Now, even distribution, common sense, rule of thumbs, all that stuff may be bound by the basics of 180 VA per strap. But I just want you to know that that is not in residential. This is a commercial. This 220.14i is not for dwelling applications. That is 3 VA per square foot. That covers general use receptacles. Here in commercial, we're doing receptacles totally different. We have to assign them a value, especially when we're determining the number of branch circuits that are necessary. So in this case, if it's a 120 volt circuit, the rating of each receptacle is 1.5 amps. How do you know that? Well, it's 80 divided by 120. It's 1.5 amps. So that's what the basic rating is assigned to each receptacle. Now, if you have 13 receptacles, you're permitted on a 20 amp. Why? Because we can do 20 divided by 1.5, and it gives me 13.3, or you drop the 0.3 because you can't have a 0.3 of a receptacle, right? Another way you can do this is knowing that it's 180 VA, right? And knowing the circuit. So if I have a 20 amp circuit, right, and I know what it is, then I can do the 20 amp circuit. So I do 120 times 20 gives me 2,400, right? So that's your total VA or watts for the circuit. And then I could divide that by 180. And that also gives me 13.3. So there's many ways you can do this. I could use it. You could break it into a amp value per device, or you could say, wait a minute, I know it's 180, and I know that a 20 amp circuit is going to be 20 amps and times 120, and that was 2400. And then I can divide that by VA, which is the 180 VA per strap. And that gives me the same value. So 13.3, but you can't have 0.3. So you drop the 0.3, okay? And it just gives you 13. Same thing applies for the 15 amp circuit. Now, this breaks it down. Again, you know what the rating is per device, right? But again, if you want to just do it the old school way, then you would just do 120 times 15, and that gives me 1800 VA. You see the old trusted Casio there, tells you 1800, right? And then you just divide that by 180, and that gives me 10. And so that is 10 straps or 10 receptacles for that circuit. And that's how we determine the number of receptacles on a branch circuit. Now, again, commercially driven, not how it's done over when you're doing a residential application. Okay, we have to use some rule of thumbs. Now, you use this principle. This is so where a lot of people come up with the rule. They'll say, I'm not putting more than 13 to 15 things on a 20 amp, and I'm not putting more than 12 on a 15. That means you're putting some receptacles, but you're also accounting for some luminaires and lighting. And again, most of the luminaires today are going to be LED today. And so it's also a reason why we see that the VA per square foot in the 2026 code is going to drop from 3 VA per square foot down to 2 VA per square foot for residential, for the doing the area. And the reason for that VA per square foot, and the reason for that is, again, there's been a load reevaluation. There's been ASHRAE's done studies, all this kind of stuff. And it just, there's way more diversity than we're accounted for. And so it just was time for a drop from 3 down to 2. And again, people are not using incandescents anymore. Those loads are much higher. So again, it's all a product of, remember, that 3 VA per square foot is general use receptacle and general lighting. Okay. So again, there's just been a change. So it's going to be less consumption. So we're getting more and more efficient, and our products are getting more and more efficient. And so again, the code had to change for that. Okay. What does Dave got to say? I'm working in the Master the NEC course. I happen to have a laptop with a monitor from what I had desktop on the screen. Am I seeing the screen? And link. Yeah, absolutely. Now he's in Master the NEC course, so he's already has his licenses. So this is a post-licensing thing. And again, there are a lot of people. We have a lot of people in our programs that use our Mastering the NEC course rather than the exam prep courses because they're already licensed. So it's just an ongoing, and it doesn't expire, so they can use it as constant education and constant learning. I think it's awesome, that type of thing. All right, so that's how we do it here, okay? All right, so non-dwelling, okay? Remember, we're talking non-dwelling and how this differs. So receptacle outlets in hotels, motels, sleeping rooms, and dormitories and similar must be installed in accordance with 210.52a and d, okay? So again, we're talking hotels, motels, the sleeping rooms and dormitories. You pretty much lay it out just like you would a dwelling for those applications, right? So guest rooms and guest suites provided with permanent provisions for cooking shall have receptacle outlets installed in accordance with all the applicable rules in 210.52. Okay, and it says that in 210.60a. So that is something that changed in 2023 to say, you know what? If I'm dealing with you're designing guest room or guest suites of hotels and motels, you know what? If they have permanent provisions for cooking in there, kind of those extended stay type of places, then guess what? You're going to wire them just like you would a dwelling unit, okay? And you meet all the rules in 210.52, okay? That type of thing. Look at that. Dwayne's going hotel, motel, holiday inn. Oh, you know what? You know, I could go into a little rap there, but I won't do it. All right, so it says, although no provision pertains to the non-dwelling general receptacle placements, obviously except for hotels and motels, which does have some minimum spacing requirements, okay? Certain requirements exist for specific occupancies in area. Examples include, but are not limited to, Show windows have specific spacing rules. Okay, 210.62. Near equipment required in servicing has specific spacing rules. 210.63 has specific spacing rules. For example, receptacles within 25 feet for servicing. Meeting rooms in 210.65. Yes, it's now 210.65. That has some specific receptacle spacing rules. And healthcare patient bed locations and operating rooms under 517, which is healthcare. Those do have some specific rules for where you have to place things. But other than that, there is no other rule in commercial. You put them where you want, okay? So it's non-dwelling, then again, see this wall right here? This is just an example. If this was in a dwelling, your spacing would be, for this wall example, if it's a dwelling, it'd be within 6 feet of the end, and then you could go up to 12 feet so that no point along this wall is more than 6 feet from a receptacle, right? Take a non-dwelling occupancy, other than these spaces up here that may have specific requirements unique to that portion of the building, generally there is nothing. You wouldn't require any in here, right? Nothing in here. So at the end of the day, that's significant because the engineer is the one that tells you where to put these things. Now, in a meeting room, for example, it is very specific on where you can put and how many you have to have, okay? But the code drives that. But anywhere else in the building, no. Put them wherever the engineer wants you to put them. Operating room, that's different, okay? Patient care bed location, that's different, okay? Show windows, that's different. But the general areas, no. You're just basically, you're being dictated by the engineering design, okay? Yes, I can. I can, Paul, but I am not. So anyway, all right. Okay. Bathroom receptacles. Y'all heard us talk about it a little earlier, talking commercial. Bathrooms are not required to have receptacles. At least one bathroom receptacle is required in dwelling units, hotels and motels, guest rooms, and sleeping rooms and dormitories, 210.52D and 210.60A, which is going to tell you to have it, what's required there, but generally not required in a normal commercial bathroom. If you do put one in there, then it's got to be GFCI protected, right? Okay. Also, again, the type of GFCI that you would put in here, and y'all all know this, this will be what's called a Class A GFCI, okay? So when it trips when the ground fault is 6 milliamps or higher. It will not trip when it's less than 4, okay? When it is, so we call this the 4 to 6, say 4 or below, 6 and above. We all just say nominal 5 milliamps, that type of thing. But the NEC states it very clearly that it's not to trip 4 or less, and it is to trip 6 or more. 5 is the nominal. It gives the manufacturers a target to shoot for, and that's what they shoot for, and that's why we call it a 5 milliamp nominal. But it's actually a Class A. Now, they make GFCIs in Class A, Class B, Class C, Class D, and basically it's the milliamps that are different. Some are protection of equipment, some are protection for people. That's a difference. Class A, protection for people, not so much. It obviously will still protect equipment, but it's typically for people. Now, Class B is typically a like 20 amp or even, 20 milliamp or 30 milliamp rating. That's what you see on rooftop type of melting, snow melting equipment, those type of devices. Not necessarily they're not going to protect a person, but that will protect equipment, things like that, right? And it's probably still in the long scope of life, it probably will protect a person better than nothing, okay? But Class A is designed for personnel protection. Y'all know that. Okay. All right. So with that said, we're just going to check everybody, make sure everybody's alive. It says, discuss the importance and purpose of providing GFCI protection for personnel. Okay. Well, GFCI devices are set to trip with a leakage current is 6 milliamps or greater. 10 milliamps of current can cause severe pain to human body. 100 milliamps can be fatal, and this is small, okay? This is still under an amp, okay? GFCI devices are intended to prevent electric shock, that type of scenario. Interesting, I saw the code question of the day that was submitted through Nika, and I should feed that to the hog. And the guy was asking about around pools and bonding and that type of stuff. And I thought today's question was pretty weak. So if you get the NICA question today, I thought the answer was pretty generic. So I don't have it available, but maybe tomorrow we'll feed that into the hog or something. But or you can feed it into the hog. I thought it was very generic today. I don't know why I thought of that, but anyway, it was generic. Okay. Anyhow, let's talk about now, obviously commercial. One of the things, and I can tell you right now, this shows up on exams. So if you're in the exam mode right now, focus, especially, I know Texas has this on the exam. So focus here. We're talking about multi-outlet assemblies. Okay, this is what they look like. Okay, it's an assembly. It looks like a track system that has multiple receptacles installed at certain intervals. Okay, so this is covered. Good morning, Felix. Hey, it's all right to be late as long as you're here, my friend, and you are here. So again, welcome. All right, multi-outlet assemblies. So in the code, you're going to be looking at 220.14h, right? And we're going to be looking at H1 and H2. Okay, now it says where appliances are unlikely to be used simultaneously on these, again, on these multi-outlet assemblies, where appliances are unlikely to be used simultaneously, each 5 feet segment of this track or fraction thereof of separate or continuous length shall be considered one outlet in not less than 180 VA. Okay, so let me give you an example. So this piece of track right here, if it's determined, and on an exam they got to tell you, by the way, in a normal application I would always consider them unlikely to be used simultaneously. But again, for exam purposes, they'd have to tell you here because it affects the calculation. That's why they have to tell you. It wouldn't be fair. I mean, listen, exams, you say they're out to trick you, but not really. It's just how the writer writes them that tricks you. But at the end of the day, they're simply asking a question and they have to give you enough information to be able to solve the question. So in the same vein here, see this right here? This is 5 feet of track, okay, of multi-outlet assembly. If these receptacles are not going to be used simultaneously, or that is what it states in the question, then it's just 180 VA per 5 feet. So if I have 10 feet of this, then I've got what? 360 VA because it's 180 per 5 feet. Now, because fixed multi-outlet assembly used in dwelling units or hotels or motel rooms and suites are included in the general lighting load calculation, no additional load calculation is required, 210.14h. So if I have multi-outlet assemblies that are in my dwelling, then they're already accounted for if wherever I'm using them in my VA, okay, that type of thing. And so with that said, we have to go look at the code. And of course, it's not working. We will make it work. And we'll go down real quick and look at that. And we're in the 2023, by the way, so those that ask. So let's just go look at 220.220h, 220.14h. Let's go look at it. All right, we're over there, okay? Now feel free, hey, hashtag wire waffle. There you go. All right, so H right here. All right, so here is H. It says fixed multi-assembly used in other than dwelling units or guest rooms and guest suites of hotel. Okay, so that tells you right there. Okay, so if you have multi-outlet assemblies, it's more about the spacing and making sure that I meet the spacing requirement for receptacle outlets, versus trying to gain any additional VA. So if you're using these for small appliance, for example, it's still a minimum of 2 small appliances, okay? So that's still, we have a value that we use for that. This is more about whether you want to use this kind of multi-outlet assemblies in order to cover your spacing requirement. But it doesn't mean that we do the math here in 220.14h. That's for other than dwellings. And it states it right here in the front. So that should not be confusing for anybody. Okay. Let's see. Okay. All right. So now let's get back to the lesson. I want to make sure we pointed that out. All right. So that's just all this is saying. Now let's look at it. So now where the appliances are likely to be used simultaneously, right? Okay. So you need, we have videos for that. Certainly we could do that in a coffee hour, but we're not going to do that today, Brandon. We're not going to jump off a topic to try to do that. But you're more than happy to send an example to us at paulabernathy.com, and we'll explain it to you. It is in our Fast Tracks program. We have we talk about cable tray fill calculations and how to do that in 392, Article 392. So again, we have some videos over on Fast Tracks Tube, I believe, that talks about doing that as well. All right. Okay, so we might do it in a future coffee hour. All right, so where we do have simultaneous use, then each 1 foot or fraction thereof, okay, shall be considered one outlet and not less than 180 VA. So what that means is here I've got a 5-foot track. So each 1 foot is 180 VA. But I want to remind you, if I had 1.5 feet of track, then it would still be 360 VA because it says a fraction thereof. So it'd be 180 VA for the 1 foot. And then even though we only have a 1/2 foot, that's what it means by fraction thereof. So if it could be 1 foot 3 inches, 1 foot 6 inches, 1 foot 9 inches, 1 foot 11 inches, or another foot, it's still going to be 180 VA per foot or a fraction thereof of that foot. So for example, if my track was only 10 inches long, it would still be 180 because that is a fraction thereof. Make sense? So in this case, if these are to be used simultaneously, and that's what's defined, okay, as simultaneous use, then it's going to be 180 VA each. Okay? Whereas if it's defined as not being simultaneous use, then it would just be 180 VA per 5 feet. So easy to remember. It's either they're not going to be used simultaneous. It's 180 for every 5 foot of multi-outlet assembly. Okay. And if it is going to be used simultaneous, then it is going to be 180 per foot and fraction thereof. Okay. Notice that in this length right here, this 5 feet, notice it says each 5 feet or fraction thereof of separate or continuous lengths. Okay. So if this one was 3 feet and another one was 5 feet, that would be okay. That would be total of 5 feet when you're doing the 180 VA. So it doesn't have to be one continuous 5 feet. You break it up, even if it's segmented, you're just going to add the pieces up. And again, you're going to, for example, here, it would be how many 5-foot sections at total 5 feet. So I could have a 3-foot section and a 2-foot section. That would be 5 feet. Okay, get what I'm saying? So it doesn't have to be totally continuous, unbroken in order for this to apply. Okay. All right, so rating of receptacles. Let's see. No, it does not, Felix, because it says right here, this does not apply to dwelling units. Now, if it's in a kitchen that's out other than a dwelling unit, then you'd have to take that into consideration. But it is not, it says right there, it does not apply to dwelling units. So when you say kitchen, I'm going to translate that into a dwelling kitchen. And you're probably on a delay, but I gave an example of where it wouldn't apply in a residential kitchen. Okay, you're just trying to meet your spacing requirements. Okay, that's all you're trying to meet. Okay, right there it says because fixed units are included in the general lighting. Okay, and in the code it says no additional load required. 220.14H. All right, so except as covered in 220.41 and 220.14J, okay, receptacle outlets must be, and in these right here, by the way, at 220.41 and 220.14, they're dealing with for office building applications. So except as covered in there, which you get some new rules that tell you how to do that. Other than that, then it's telling you that receptacle outlets must be computed at not less than 180 VA for each single or multiple receptacle on one yoke. So this is 180 VA, kind of rehashing this a little bit. 180, this is still 180, this is still 180, and this was where it gets to 4 or more on the same faceplate, then this would be 90 per, okay, which again would be equivalent to, say, putting in 2 duplexes, which would be 180 and 180. Same concept. Now, the difference here is what if this had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? What if they had 6 of them in it? Then that would be 90 for each receptacle. that type of thing. But I don't know that I've ever seen one, an actual one that goes in a 4-inch square like this or on a 4-inch. I don't know that I've ever seen one with more than 4. I'm sure somebody probably makes one. But most I've ever seen is the 4, that type of thing. But the more important thing to remember is it's per strap until you get up to 4 or more, which is basically mounted on an assembly. Then it's 90 per. Okay, makes sense? All right. Oh, and where do you get all this? Again, like we do in our Fast Tracks program, we give you chevrons. Always stop and go to the chevrons, that type of thing. It's critically important that you do that, right? So again, anytime you see chevrons in your program and you're studying, stop. This is not a sprint. This is a marathon. Take your time. It's all about retention. All right, now, some of you out there may be doing hotels and motel, guest rooms and guest suites, okay? So hotels, motels, and similar occupancies having guest kitchen facilities must meet all the provisions of 210. So this is an example right here. So this is a hotel motel, and it has guest suites, and it has permanent cooking in here. So if you look in here, right, we see everything in here. This is the guest room, guest suite, okay? All right, in this scenario, right? And we got bathroom, hall, whatever. This is the regular hotel, motel, whatnot type of thing. Now, you see this requirement here. This is what's interesting about this one. This one right here doesn't look like it has permanent provisions for cooking in it. But you see these receptacles in blue right here? Okay. So here it says, locate at least one wall receptacle within 36 inches of the outside edge of each sink. Okay, so we still got our spacing requirement. That's 210.52D. Okay, the receptacle outlets must be located on the wall or partition adjacent to the sink or sink counter. So again, that's a no-brainer. You're going to be mounting your receptacle for the kitchen sink. The bathroom sink, you're going to be mounting it what? Just like you do in a dwelling. You're going to be doing it so that from the top inside edge is not more than 3 feet. Okay, got it. Receptacles must be installed at no point along the wall line of the wall space is more than 6 feet measured horizontally from an outlet in that space. So you got your normal, if this is one that's going to be treated like that, and we're going to go look at 210.60A really quickly for those that do hotels and motel, guest rooms and guest suites, okay? We're going to go look at it really quick, but this is kind of the layout. Now, this is not the same as if there's permanent provisions for cooking in here, okay? So that's why I want to show you, and so we're going to use the graphic for both. But let's go to the NEC, if it works. Let's see if it works. All right, so real quick, I want to go to 210.60 really quick for you that happen to do these. Okay, so here we're in A. So here's A, okay? And then here's B for receptacle placement. So this is pretty important. Again, I don't know if it's a basic, if we call it a basic. For those out there that do this, like a friend of mine, shout out to J&M Electric in Richmond. There you go. Does a lot of these. Okay, so this is kind of basic for them. It says guest rooms and guest suites, hotels and motels, sleeping rooms and dormitories, and similar occupancies shall have receptacles installed in accordance with 210.52A and D. Okay, wow. So that's the first thing. So again, it doesn't matter whether it's provisions for cooking. Wow, let me see here. Yeah, this is good stuff, folks. Listen. First of all, it doesn't matter. It's telling me that the guest room and guest suites and hotels and motels and the sleeping rooms in dormitory units and similar occupancy shall have receptacle outlets installed in accordance with 210.52A through D. That's our spacing rules. Okay, that's your 6 foot, 12 foot, all that kind. It covers all that, A through D, everything. Okay, wow, that's huge. Okay, all right, not really a change, but again, all right. Then it says next. It says guest rooms and guest suites provided with permanent provisions for cooking shall have receptacle outlets installed in accordance with all of the applicable rules in 210.52. So again, general rules of A through D apply to the guest rooms and guest suites of hotels and motels and the sleeping areas of dormitories and similar occupancies as those. So I got to follow 210.52A and D, okay? It doesn't say A through D. It just says A and D. That's important distinction. So let's see here. So A, these are the general provisions. There's your 6-foot rule, okay? Then there's your wall spacing, 2 foot of wall space. Okay, so there's all your general rules. So it's got to follow A. Great, gotcha. And then it also says that I got to follow D as well, okay? Now, if there is permanent provisions for cooking in that guest room or guest suite, then guess what? I got to treat it just like a dwelling unit, and I got to follow all of the rules in 210.52. And that means I follow all of this. I follow A. Where applicable, I follow B because it is going to have cooking, so I got to follow the small appliance rules. I'm going to follow, let's see, I'm going to follow C, and then I got to go all the way down here, and I've got to follow D, okay? I got to follow everything in 210.52, but it goes further than that. I've got E where applicable, right? I've got all this kind of stuff I've got to follow. Everything I have to follow in 210.52D. If it's got its own cooking provisions, then basically it's got everything to qualify as a dwelling unit. It's got cooking, sleeping, sanitation, and living. If it didn't have the cooking, then it doesn't have all the elements. Okay, so it's treated a little different, even though we still have to follow 210.52A for placement. And then we have the thing. Now, there is some caveats to that, right? That's your general rule, okay? Now let's get down here to placement, because even though I have to have the right number of the receptacles based on the normal placement, in other words, the same number that I would do for the 6-foot, 12-foot for this hotel and motel guest room. However, it does say this: the total number of receptacle outlets shall not be less than required by 210.52A. Everybody know what that means? That means that even though up here in A, I follow the 6-foot, 12-foot, and any wall space 2 feet or more, right? I follow that rule. It says, well, yeah, you have the same number. So I still have to have the same number, 6-foot, 12-foot. So if that resulted in needing 8 receptacles around the room, I still have to have the 8 to meet the spacing, okay, for that guest room and guest suite. However, I still have to have the total number, but then it says, these receptacle outlets should be permitted to be located conveniently for permanent furniture layout. At least 2 of those receptacle outlets shall be readily accessible. That means they can't be behind something, all right? So that's what we'll show you in our picture, what we consider in our layout as being readily accessible, okay? It says where receptacles are installed behind the bed, the receptacle shall be located to prevent the bed from contacting any attachment plug that may be installed, or the receptacle shall be provided with a suitable guard. So it could be a recessed back, it could be back in the wall, and kind of those like old clock style, whatever. You have to figure out a way that's not going to be damaged by pushing the bed all the way back, okay? But that's not going to meet at least the 2 that have to be what? Accessible. So let's look back at our illustration. See these 2 that are blue? I don't know if you could tell. These are the 2 that's meeting the accessible, right? So these are the 2 that have to be ready for anybody to be able to get to them, okay? They have to be readily accessible. Nothing's blocking them. Whereas this one's behind a cabinet, right? This one's behind a cabinet. This one's behind the bed, okay? That type of thing. This one over here, probably, but I only needed 2 of them to be. So these are the 2 we're using, okay? So that's pretty good. So anybody that's out there, that's a good part of this basics lesson today. If there's anybody out there that's going to be dealing in hotels and motels, remember, you gotta, if it's got permanent provisions, you have to lay it out and meet every rule of 210.52. If it's still a guest room and guest suite, you still have to lay it out based on the number of receptacles you need, right? But you get to put them anywhere you want except for a minimum of 2, right? Which have to be readily accessible at all times. Otherwise, you can put the other ones anywhere you want. You just have to make sure you have the same number that you would have if you were laying out, let's say, a bedroom in your dwelling. Does that make sense? Okay. David, what's David say? Find some violations. What do you find, David? Hold on, let me throw it up on the screen for you. As I find violations to this in hotel inspections a lot because the guys don't follow the blueprints or furniture moves. Absolutely. Again, it's That's the one thing is a lot of times they rough something in and then somebody changes something or somebody gets the bright eye to deviate. And the next thing you know, you're screwed. So absolutely, David, I can imagine you probably see that a lot. A lot of the big chains don't want to deviate because they already know how it's going to be. But you're right. They could move the beds to another wall and now it's all screwed. The key here is at least two of the receptacles we have to have readily accessible that you can get to without being blocked behind furniture. But you still have to have the same number of receptacles, and then all that other rules apply. So this was pretty straightforward, but again, I like to cover the basics. Okay. All right. Show windows. For those that are dealing with, again, other than dwelling, that's what this week's all about, commercial. So what about show windows? Well, what does the code say? It says at least one 125 volt, single phase, 15 or 20 amp rated receptacle outlet. Okay, not necessarily the device, it's an outlet. That means the box. Could be a simplex, could be a duplex, could be a triplex, receptacle device. The outlet is the box in the location where that device is being installed, right? There's still some people out there that think that a receptacle is an outlet. It's not, it's a device. It goes in an outlet box. I get it. We sling it all the time. We call it a plug, call it an outlet, okay, that type of thing. But it is actually a device. You're more accurate calling it a receptacle going in an outlet box. So it's a receptacle outlet box. You get me? Okay. But we get you. I'm not a harper on it when people go, there is no such thing as a sub panel. Dude, I know what you're talking about. There's people out there that get a hard on because people call something a sub panel and they know that it's not a sub panel. It's a remote distribution panel or a load center or a downstream load center. But man, they get that boner because somebody calls it a sub panel and it freaks them out. Wire waffle. Word of the day, hashtag wire waffle. They are sold out, by the way. Congratulations to the dude, Hunter. I saw you can buy them in a 6-pack, but it is sold out for the individual units. So that is awesome. I love seeing success. Okay. All right. Anyway, single receptacle, single phase, 15 or 20 amp rated receptacle outlet, probably going to be a 20 in commercial, probably going to always be spec'd out as a 20. Shall be installed within 18 inches, okay, code rule, 18 inches of the top of each show window, okay, 18 inches of top. No point along the top of the window shall be farther than 6 feet from a receptacle outlet. So again, doesn't matter where you put them, okay? So it has to be at least within what? 18 inches of the top of each show window. And as far as the spacing goes, we just have to make sure that we're not on this whole, so this is example, I'll blow it up so you can see it. So this is example, so this is all show window, right? So at this point, if this is show window, we need to make sure that no point along anywhere is going to be more than 6 feet from a receptacle, and they have to be installed within 18 inches of the top, okay? All right, and so again, we can look at that at 210.62. And I always love to look at the code. This is why I tell people, I don't know why that does that. I tell people right here, it says, here's the code. It says at least one. Again, we're paraphrasing it directly from the code, but you see this in gray? This means it's a change for the 2023. Again, probably just a language change, but it says that, again, 15 or 20, your prerogative, receptacle outlet shall be installed within 18 inches of the top of each show window. No point along the top of the window shall be farther than 6 feet from a receptacle outlet. All right, and we don't have a picture here, but it just does give you some verbiage. So we'll read the verbiage. It says, some show windows extend from the floor to the ceiling for maximum display. Yeah, like a department store, like that old thought of the Macy's type of scenario. It says, to discourage floor receptacles and the use of extension cords, receptacles must be installed directly above the show window within 18 inches of the top. And no point along the top of the window is permitted to be more than 6 feet from a receptacle. Okay? This requirement requires the use of 15 or 20 amp receptacles. Such receptacles would still be required if the circuit were provided for a 24 volt lighting system. It would not matter, folks. That's what somebody asks me all the time. They go, well, I'm not planning on putting any lighting in there that's going to need 120 volt circuit. So I don't need to put any. Oh, by the way, the 125 is a NEMA rating for those that ask. Okay, when you see 125, it's usually going to be some reference to a device. Like a 250 is a reference to a device. When you see 120, 240, things like that, that's a circuit-driven type of thing. So that's a little tidbit of remembrance, especially when you're dealing with things like AFCIs and GFCIs. You're going to see that they talk about the 125 and 250 because that's device-driven. Whereas AFCIs, they talk about 120 volt. That's circuit-driven. See the difference? Okay. Just kind of little tidbits of information to think about. Now, also, you do see that here in Link, they do give you some stuff. Link is amazing. I think somebody said it earlier. Link is amazing, but here's an example. If I click on G and show you this, this is an example of the show window, and I am more than sure I can't blow this up. Actually, I can, but it still looks funky on the screen. This is 12 feet of show window right here. And let's see here. Okay, so that's how to calculate the VA for the show window. But for our case, I'd have to have receptacles up here within 18 inches. And at no point along this span can I be more than 6 feet apart from fence. So more than 6 feet here, more than 6 feet here. So it looks like I could have one receptacle in the middle, right? And it has to be within 18 inches of the top, okay? Anyway, let's see here. This one also talks about show windows, but it doesn't give us any illustration. Okay, enough of that. All right, let's get back to the lesson. All right, so in this lesson, this is 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. This is 14 feet overall, okay? So it looks like 2 feet, 2 feet, 6 feet, 2 feet, 2 feet. So 2, 4, 10, 12, 14 feet. So this is what's dictating two of them, and they're going to be within 18 inches of the top. Again, to discourage the use of extension cords. All right. Lamp holder installations. Lamp holders of a screw shell type. Okay, this is kind of, we refer to this as kind of like an Edison-based screw-in. Okay, lamp holders of the screw shell type shall be installed for use as lamp holders only in 410.90. They are not luminaires. They are lamp holders. Okay, a luminaire is a full assembly, and it's to be installed as such, not to be used to plug in things in order to be able to get receptacles out of it. Okay, so a lamp holder in 410.90, if you're installing it, it's not to be installed with the intent that you say, ooh, I'm going to put this in so that I can plug in one of these little inserts in there in order to get a receptacle. That is not the intent, especially in new installation. What you do after somebody leaves, whatever somebody does is whatever they do. Okay, but I'm just saying, as far as in the scheme of life, that is not what they're intended for. Now, if the supply circuit has a grounded conductor, it says the grounded conductor must be connected to the screw shell. Okay, so that's a grounded neutral. So that's usually the screw shell. Okay, and you have the middle point at the bottom, and you have that outside. Okay, that outside metal of the lamp holder. Okay. Lamp holders installed in wet locations shall be listed for use in a wet location. I can tell you the general keyless is what we call them, or as a trade name that we use for them, keyless, are not rated for wet location. Okay, just saying that. All right. Lamp holders installed in damp locations shall be listed for damp locations or shall be listed for wet. And remember, anytime you're installing, whether it's a lamp holder or you're doing a luminaire, I can have a wet location rated luminaire. Right? For example, not what we're talking about lamp holder there. I'm just saying in general. I can have a wet location luminaire installed in a damp location, but I can't necessarily have a damp location rated luminaire installed in a wet location. So that the wet being more restrictive than the damp. Same thing would apply here if you had one of those lamp holders, that type of thing. Have you seen the fans that screw into the lamp holders? I have seen them on TikTok. In that type of scenario, okay? And that's a little different because we're not going to be plugging like an extension cord into it or something like that. I kind of treat that no different than a lamp, if you will. But I have seen those. I definitely have. All right. Just a discussion check here. Please provide examples of why a lamp holder should not be used as a receptacle outlet. Well, Lamp holders are commonly installed on dimmer circuits, okay? And if a dimmer is used in a circuit that a receptacle outlet, the lower voltage can damage electrical equipment, right? So again, and we're not allowed to dim receptacles except for some specific applications, like in theater applications and stuff like that. So typically the code's not going to let us dim a receptacle, whereas we dim luminaires. So again, it can affect equipment that is designed to be plugged into it. And you say, well, okay, what's the big deal? Well, if the equipment's being damaged, then it could cause to a breakdown or something happen in the equipment that could cause a fire. And we're not going to rely on the overcurrent device because, again, this might be something that's happening but in the equipment, and it may take a while for it to impact the circuit protection, that type of thing. And again, remember, the overcurrent device is not necessarily there to protect whatever is plugged into it. It might vicariously do that. And at the end of the day, we're trying to protect the conductors, okay, and the insulation. Because if that breaks down, then we got touch issues, we got shock issues, we got energizing live part issues, we got dead short issues, we got all kinds of issues if the insulation breaks down. So we're trying to protect the insulation, okay? The equipment just happens to be a byproduct of that protection, okay? All right. All right, reflective ceilings and lighting plans. Let's see here. Actually, we are over an hour. We're gonna be talking about ceiling layouts tomorrow and lighting schedules. I want to make sure that I get to some giveaways today so we can get on it. Now, let me explain something about our giveaways, folks. Hopefully you got something out of some basics today. We are doing the drawing this week at the end of the week, but we are in a new drawing for the next quarter, which is going to be the giveaways for June 30th. Okay, so we're in that. So anytime you do hashtag win now, you're in the next drawing. Okay, so make sure you do that. Okay. Let's see. It says, I think they used to sell keyless with receptacles built in, but I don't think they sell them anymore. I'm not sure. If they sell those, then it's probably okay because that is built into it. But those used to be the ones that were built in were not, one, they were just two-prong. So they didn't have an equipment ground. They may still sell them. I am not sure if they do or not. Now, if it's designed in it, it's listed for that, then it wouldn't be by screwing anything into the lamp holder, right? It would be something that's built into it. So I would assume if they've got them, assuming is bad because it makes an ass out of you and me. But at the end of the day, if they're still available and they're out there and they're listed, because all of those things have to be listed, then we'll assume that it's been evaluated, right? So, but I don't know. That's your homework, folks. Go see if you can still find the lamp holders with the built-in receptacle, which are convenient in a crawl space, except for the fact that we're required to have GFCI protection on those receptacles in a crawl space. So that would be like a no good, right? Okay, let's do some drawings real quick, folks. Hashtag win. Let's get in on the win. Let's do some spin. I've got my sheet ready to get some folks on here. Let's go. Let me get the music ready because I know y'all like the music. Let's do it. Remember, tomorrow we're getting even more basics. We're going to get into plans and lighting layout. I'm talking about those type of things. That's important. Very basic understanding with the use of circuit breakers or whether it's got an SWD or HID or how you use them in the lighting circuit and all those type of things, whether you have automation, whether or not you have occupancy sensors, so much stuff. Those are basics, but we're going to start digging into that tomorrow, by the way. Okay, let's see here. Charlie, you've got a Fast Tracks tube. I think you already have that. So you can have it extended to another year. Just make sure you send me an email and let me know if you want to do that. Or we can spin again. If you'd like to spin again, we can spin again. That type of thing. All right? Just let me know, Charlie. What we'll do is if you want to spin again, we'll spin again. Felix says they do still sell them with the one outlet. Okay. Just be careful. If you're using it in a place that the receptacle requires GFCI protection, now you're going to GFCI protect the whole thing, and you'll be okay. And 3-prong too. Good. And the code allows us, by the way, to put lighting and receptacles on the same branch circuit. So that is not a problem, and for most applications, okay? Just remember all the other rules. If you're putting that in a location, right? Obviously, you can't use an open lamp holder like that in areas where it's like closets, where it's near combustible materials. If you're using it in crawl spaces, now remember there are other rules that require GFCI protection, and it is a receptacle, okay? So again, that type of thing. So obviously be aware of that. Charlie says spin again. All right, Charlie. So let's go on and let's do another one here for Charlie real quick. And just do Charlie one more. But yes, if you find them out there, Felix says they're still out there, then obviously they're still available. If they weren't allowed, they'd be pulled off the market. All right. Let's see here. All right, Charlie, you're in the drawing for the Ohms wheel coin of your choice. Okay. This says if you put in same drawing more than one, yeah, then you just increase your odds of winning, Greg. Your name gets in there more than once. So if you, for example, if your name was drawn for the Ohms wheel 5 times, your name is in there 5 times. All it's doing is increasing your chance of actually winning. Okay, yep. So yeah, you get more drawings. The more you're in, the more your name goes in it. That type of thing. So it's not just like one and done. If you win something, you're in the drawing for 6 times, then your name's in the hat 6 times. You have 6 times the chances of winning. All right, let's go. The Ohms wheel coins are sweet though. I carry one in my pocket. I don't have it now because when I leave and go out somewhere, I carry the ultimate decision coin. That's my favorite. Y'all have heard me talk about it because I let it make decisions for arguments with my wife. I use it all the time. I flip it and go, oh. But sometimes I lose. But my wife can never make a decision where she wants to eat. Never. Ever. So that coin comes in handy for me. I'm just saying. All right, Angel. I think it's cool to have. And it's a conversation piece. The other most popular one we have is the inspector coin, pass, fail, because there's a lot of people that want to, that play with their inspector. Or I have inspectors who buy them, who get to a job and they want to give somebody that they'll tease them. They'll go say, all right, before he even walks in, because the guy's nervous already. Contractors get nervous, inspectors, because it means they might have to do more work or they get into an argument. They just want things to go smooth. Well, it's kind of humorous for an inspector to come out and flip a coin, that type of thing. Now, I do know an occasion. This is a funny story. A guy bought one of our coins. Let me tell you this real quick. Luis, you won the conductor length drawing. So you're going to be the conductor length. That's a neat card. Real quickly, I'll show you that. It's a neat card like this. It's thick. See how thick that is? It'll go in your wallet, and this is how you can tell how much wire is still left on a reel or a coil. It works also for NM, how much is left. It works for the same thing because the amount of resistance doesn't really change except for when the temperature changes. Then the length can deviate. And this helps you adjust for that. So these is a lot better than just guessing. Okay. So anyway, that's what you're in the drawing for. Okay. Back to my story. So one of the guys went to a job and everything looked great. The only thing was that he needed a couple nail plates. Right. And the inspector was going to let the guy go because he promised that he was going to say, if you put those nail plates on there before I leave, then no problem. Okay. I can't leave and you not do it. I think that was the way the story went. Anyway, the inspector was going to let him do that anyway, but he decided to use the coin and just flip the coin in front of the guy. And the coin came back yes to pass, or came back pass. So he says, all right, I'm going to let you pass. And as he was leaving, he yells at him. He goes, but you are going to put those 2 nail plates on, aren't you? And the guy goes, absolutely, Mr. Inspector, I will. It was just, it broke the ice. He told me that the guy laughed his butt off and loved the coin. You know what? If you're an inspector, it behooves you to not be an a-hole. It really does. Now, teach the code, be fair in your judgment, do the right thing, make people do the right thing. But you don't have to be so hard. You can be relaxed. And a coin breaks the ice. And so that's what he uses his for. And so I thought that was cool. He was an inspector who did it. like that. And he still does that. He's he's just funny. I do know one. He used to tell me all the time that he flips it, even if he's going to pass it. He waits until the end, and he plays with he can only really do it once per contractor because then they get the deal. He pulls out the coin and goes, I don't know if I'm going to pass or fail this. And he uses the coin. Now, he tells me that he always does it when it's a tense situation, when he can tell that, or he wants to break the ice and set a good tone for the contractor, and he can tell that they're new contractor or they're tense. He says that that's when he breaks out the coin at the end. He's going to pass them anyway, let's say, and he realizes it's just a good moment. You know, you got to be very tactful. And he pulls out the coin and does that. And, and if it's fail, he goes, oh, dude, I got to fail you. And then the contractor's like, what? No. And he explains the coin. But if it's a pass, he goes, you know what? I'm going to pass it. And then ultimately, you got to be tactful. But he's a cool dude. And his ways you can be, you can do this very tactful and be funny and enjoy life. You don't have to be such a stick in the mud. You know what I'm saying? Everybody wants to learn. Not everybody's going to pass an inspection on the first go. Inspectors don't have to be hard asses. And this is just a way to break the ice. You know what I'm saying? And that's why I came up with the coin. Right? The pass or fail inspector coin. It's over on our website if you happen to be interested. Okay. All right. Let's get back to the contest. All right. So there you go. So you're in it, Angel, for that conductor length coin. So we will do that drawing around June 30th for that. Okay. All right. Let's do another one. Let's go. Let's go. Thank you for joining, Adam. Hopefully you got something out of the basics. We've been talking basics this week. Erie, I don't know if you already have a Fast Tracks Tube subscription. If you don't, then you know how to do it. Just go to fasttrackstube.com, go to the top where it says members plan, click on it, choose a free plan, and be sure to let us know with your username once you do it so we can go verify it and then we can update. We will not do it automatically. You got to let us know, okay? Got to let me know. Otherwise, you'll just sit there in a free plan and you won't be able to see the videos because you can't see the videos on the free plan. You have to be upgraded to an annual plan. For all those that have it or won that, reach out and let me know if I have not. We'll verify you because we track every ISP on here. So we will track it up. I keep track of it and we will get you elevated. No worries. Okay. So Erie, if you already have that, I can spin again for you. Otherwise, we're going to move on to the next one. And if you want an extension on it, we will extension once the giveaway. And once we verify everything, we can extend it for you. Same way we got to extend somebody else's. I can't remember who it was. Angel, one of Angel. I think we got extended, that type of thing. Okay. All right, let's do it again. Let's go. Let me know what you want to do, Erie. If you're tuning in late, we're at the end of the show where we're just doing our giveaways at the end. It kind of makes you kind of stay through the show. If I'm not engaging enough for you to join me for the entire hour, then, at least there's the giveaway, right? ISP, we actually track your IP from whatever you use to log into the show. We see your IP address and we log it. Yes, we're like TikTok. All right, so Frank the Great, you are in the drawing for the VD card. And if you've already been in that, you're in the drawing to get it again. Okay? All right, let's do it again. How come we haven't given any drawings for the trade hog? Come on. Hashtag trade hog. Hashtag trade hog. All right. Okay, well, this is, I guess that's SCIATL. All right, I don't even know how to pronounce that. Scattle? Anyway, you have a free annual membership over on Fast Tracks Tube. All you got to do is go to Fast Tracks Tube, okay? fasttrackstube.com. Go over to Members Plan, sign up for a free membership, send us your username and email, and we will elevate you once you share that information with us. So you have won a 12-month subscription. Okay. Says, yeah, I won yesterday. Just up my fast track. I sent the email. Username, same username is here. Okay, good deal. We will get on it. All right, let's do it. Another one. Giveaway, giveaway. Let's go. Now, this giveaway is for our second quarter that's drawing in June. Okay, so we'll be adding stuff to it. Tomorrow, we'll be adding wire waffles on it. So we'll be giving away some wire waffles. So they might be out of stock, but we're going to be giving them away. Felix. Hey, Felix, even though you came in late, it pays to be here. You are in the drawing for the enhanced exam prep drawing. And that is our exam prep program for the 2023, but it's also just great to learn the NEC as well. And that is a $375 value. You're in the drawing. We'll let you know if you win at the drawing date. So it's NEC enhanced. You're in that drawing. No, you did not win it now. You're in the drawing for it. Okay. All right, one more, guys. Let's do one more. I'm in the mood to give some more stuff away. You're over on TikTok and you want to join us for a chance to win, you got to go to TikTok. Excuse me, you got to go to one of our live shows. I also don't think that the hashtag works over on Instagram either. Just so folks know. Is any of my Instagram people here on here? If you're here, let me know you're on Instagram because I don't think it works over there. Manny, I think you actually do have a Fast Tracks tube. So I will spin again for you because I think you already have that. I think you already have a Fast Tracks tube. No, oh, I don't control the wheel. All right, look at it. It's just randomly spinning. Paul would say that random spinning like that means that everybody wins, okay? But that is not how it works, Paul. So I'm going to spin it again. Oops. No, I'm not. I'm going to spin this again. We'll do it all again. Oh, that's why that was going. I was spinning for Manny. I'm sorry, Manny. Let's see what you get. All right, that's the same thing you already had, Manny. Damn it, let's do it again. God, how many of these damn things I got on the wheel? I got to edit the wheel tonight. Hashtag Paul's got to edit the wheel. Hashtag Paul, get to work on the wheel. All right, so Manny, you're in the drawing for Trade Hog for 12-month basic subscription. Okay, that's an awesome. I had somebody email the other day. They did it. For those that don't know what the Trade Hog is, by the way, since they do sponsor the show, let me show you what Trade Hog is, by the way. Again, it's because they sponsor the show, so at least I should show you Trade Hog. So this is Trade Hog, and it allows you to ask questions, okay, down here, right? It allows you to ask questions, and it brings back intelligent responses that are geared towards the construction trade, code references, all that type of stuff. For example, here I'll just use one of the pre-plugged in ones. Here, what is the minimum slope for a drain pipe? So this is for my plumbers in the house again. So I'll click on that again to test it. And we'll see what it says. Now this works on NEC, that works on plumbing codes, mechanical codes, everything right here. All right, so based on the IPC, Section 704.1, for pipes 2.5 inches smaller, the slope is 1/4 inch per foot. For pipes 3 inches to 6 inches, it's 1/8 inch per foot. And for pipes larger than 6 inches, it's 1/16 inch per foot. Okay, it gives you all the code references there. And if you want to deep dive on any of that, you can deep dive on the code section. For example, if I wanted to do this, just for craps and giggles, and paste it in there. Let's see, explain as, can't see the thing. Explain as if I was a child. Just saying. All right, so you can continually to feed the hog, right? And it'll do it here. So here you see it says, imagine you have a long slide at a playground. If the slide is too flat, you won't be able to slide down easily. But if it's too steep, you might go too fast and it'd be scary. The point of this right here, the reason I did this is because I want you to see that we designed the hog in a way to be very much driven to be easy to say, well, you know what? That code reference you gave me is too complicated, because the codes can be complicated. So it allows you to ask it and say, can you explain it easier or in better detail? Or can you explain it like a child? Or can you, so you see what I'm saying? Then it changes that type of scenario, right? So at the end of the day, it allows you to ask it and add more things to it, okay? So you know, that is one of those things that it does, and absolutely, it absolutely nailed it right there. Okay, a quarter down for every foot. Okay, so there you go. All right. So anyway, there you go. All right, so that's our giveaways for today, folks. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for taking the time. Tomorrow, we're going to get into lighting layouts. We're going to talk about, obviously, circuit breakers. We're going to talk about lighting plans. We're going to talk about luminaire schedules. We're going to be talking about fluorescent luminaires and what the code says about that. We are going to talk about show windows and track lighting. We're going to be talking about recessed luminaires and how they apply to things like blueprints and the requirements you have there. We'll talk about exit lighting and egress lighting applications and all those type of good things tomorrow's episode, right? All right. Till next time, folks, stay safe. God bless. Thanks for joining me. I went a little over today, as I usually do. But again, I appreciate you taking the time to join me. Remember, check out tradehog.net, tradehog.net. And we have some exciting news coming with TradeHog, with tradehog.com, but that is not available right now. We're still working on the background. It's a bigger project. It's a much bigger thing than just the AI. So again, we're always working, and that's something that Jeff's been busy on. So that's exciting as well. So anyway, a lot of stuff coming on. Check out the Hog. Check out Fast Track's Tube. Check out fasttracksystem.com to check out our stuff. And if you don't know what that looks like, that's what that is right there. Check out that URL right there. If you're interested in our courses, watch the demo and see how you navigate through our course. A lot of changes took place in our course in the last year and a half. The whole delivery is different. We now make it so you can do your own reviews of your competencies and kind of get your answers quicker. We included the database. If you get the enhanced, you get videos. So we're always, and you get what's called Fast Tracks Interact. Lastly, I know y'all got to go, but I want to show you Fast Tracks Interact because, again, folks do not understand what that is. And so I want to make sure you understand. So this is our website, okay? So when you go to your course, and I'll just say, let's go to the 2023 Basic or Enhanced. I'm going to go into the Enhanced. Now, I'm already logged in. So when you go to this course, you can continue your course by clicking this. But you see this down here? I know it's hard for you to see it because of the way it stays at the bottom. And in fact, if I extended my screen, you'd be able to see it. But it's this little blue thing that's down here, right? And if I do this, you can see it. See this right here? It's this little blue thing that's down here. It's in your course, okay? You click it, and that brings up this. And this is where you can actually post questions right here in this, okay? And you can attach, I'm going to show you what it looks like here. You can attach images. You can attach, well, I can see you. You can see it just kind of spreads out. If you want to personal message somebody, you click on their name and you can type in down here at the bottom to them, that type of thing. If you want to do the whole group, make sure you're always on this so you see everything. You can attach a picture, you can do text, you hit the button, all that kind of stuff. It's kind of hard for you to see it right there because it's at the bottom of the screen and I can't adjust it. I can probably adjust it on the fly. There it is right there. You see it down there? There you go. You see it down at the bottom right here? So this is where you attach an image. This is where you text right in here. I'll just show you. This is where you text your question. And this is where you submit, the little yellow button. This is built into the course, guys. That is what makes it unique, is that you can add. You see people have asked questions, and you come back later and you can see where we answer the questions. Okay. Now, this is not available. Okay. This is not available in our 2017 programs. This is only available in the 2020 and 2023 programs. So keep that in mind. If you got a question and you're in the 2017 program, then you got to send it to paulabernathy.com and we'll answer your question. But if you're in the 2020-23, then use that feature. It's amazing. And it's easier for us to answer questions that way. And it's built in. Even if you're doing your course, you'll see it down on the bottom right. You click it. Now, it works better on a phone if you turn it horizontally versus straight up and down. Okay. But again, it's there. So check it out. All right, folks, that's it. Till next time, stay safe, God bless, and we'll catch you tomorrow on another episode of Coffee Hour. Peace.